Good morning, Sooner Nation. We've got a game tonight. And not only do we have a game tonight, we have a primetime game that is not on pay-per-view for the first time this season. And I think the first time against West Virginia in, I believe, 7 years. And not only that, we have our first conference game of the season as we chase our 7th in a row conference title. And not only that, we also are wearing our alternate uniforms, which looks like to be it's our tradition against West Virginia at this point. Because I made a lot of prior commitments for this weekend, guys, I still wanted to get a video out for y'all, but it's going to be a much shorter video and a much shorter overlook at what we expect for a preview of the game tonight. So let's grind into it. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this game. OU West Virginia. I'm going to kind of combine both sides of it. So West Virginia's biggest strength is their defense. Their red zone defense is number one in the nation. We struggle right now on offense, and I think what it's going to be is their D-line is going to challenge the O-line. How can OU overcome this? Well, the first step is I do believe you got to settle and finalize the O-line tonight. Congo has been a great player. You got to go with Rain. We can't keep switching and starting with Congo as the starter only to bring in Rame in the second, third series. You need to start Rame tonight. And I believe all of OU's offensive success tonight leans on the O-line, Spencer Rattler, and Lincoln Riley. So I believe once you get the O-line settled, that's going to give Spencer Rattler more confidence to be able to stick to the script. As I've mentioned before with everybody, I do believe when Rattler sticks to the script, he is a fantastic quarterback and he lights up opponents' defenses. Now, that being said, if he's forced to audible or if he's forced to change on the run or he's forced to throw off his back foot or he's looking for triple coverage, look, I think that's going to be a big problem for that. It starts with the O-line, though. I think if the O-line gets settled in, it gives him a lot of confidence to make those high-risk, high-reward plays at that point. But that also falls to Rattler, just like I said in general. Once we get to that, that's going to open up the playbook. And that's going to also open up for him because today, and I cannot stress it, I believe this is the game that OU, I'm not going to go as far as say the floodgates are going to open up on scoring, but this is the game that OU needs to commit to the two back sets and they need to commit to some deep balls. They need to keep West Virginia honest on it and they need to show them that they're not going to be one-dimensional and just throw the ball or have just a one running back in the backfield at this point. They have to commit to that. This is conference play. We're in the main grind at this point. And Lincoln's got to open up that playbook. I think against Tulane, Western Carolina, and Nebraska, he was really trying to save it. And we saw some brief glimpses of it here and there. But this is the game to do that. This is the game to finally start making those plays, show that OU's not going to be a one-dimensional team. Like I said, once you get the deep ball action, two back sets, also opens up play action. I think OU has all that. We got to get to that, though. And this is the time against West Virginia to do that. So let's talk again. West Virginia, their defense is spectacular. I think they are very, very criminally not looked at right now with it. But that all being said, again, they have the red zone, number one red zone defense. They have everyone on their D line is upperclassmen. Their secondary is going to challenge us as well. I think that's how OU will overcome that. But we'll have to see how this game goes at that point. Now, looking at West Virginia's offense versus OU's defense, West Virginia's offense is a little bit young versus OU's defense, because now the flip side of it is OU's strongest unit is their D-line, while secondary is a little bit thin. With West Virginia, their O-line is also very young. And despite me saying like, previous teams before with young O-lines, that's not going to be a challenge. There's been some times early in the game that they've pushed comes to sub. The O-lines have overwhelmed the D-line a little bit before the D-line got settled in and played out of their minds the past couple games. Again, we're leaning on our defense right now to win games because we can't score really above 30 points either. So neither can West Virginia. Who knows? But with looking at West Virginia specifically, though, they're going to be running two quarterbacks. They like the passing of one and the running of the other one. But their strongest offensive part is they're going to run it down our throats. Their running back is amazing. And through 3 games, I believe I saw he had a ridiculously amount of yards and 5 touchdowns in 3 games. The guy is really good. The D-line has to step up in this game and make sure that they're not only pressuring the quarterback, but also making sure they're taking care of the running game at that point. I also think with West Virginia, we're going to have to watch out for their left and right guards with, I think it's Grimter. I hope I'm not saying that wrong. It's Grimter and Nestor. I think they're going to, it goes back to that O-line type of thing where I was mentioning with OU. For the flip side of it, I think that's where the D-line's got to focus their efforts on, is making sure keeping those two guys contained. I think that's going to lead to a lot of success of containing the run game and also containing the quarterback game. For OU, again, looking at the defense is fine. I'm really worried about the secondary a little bit, bit, because I do think that opens up the wide receiver game for West Virginia at that point, because they do have every one of their wide receivers are juniors that are starters for it. I do think that's going to be challenge our secondary, especially with some of our players still out. I was really hoping Woody Washington would be back, but he's not at this point. I think he may be back later in the season still at this point. That all being said, though, I think that's going to be where OU is going to have to manage and hope that they're not exploited. For OU, for offense, they have to take care of the O-line, leads to opening up the playbook with the running backs and Spencer Rattler. For defense, they've got to take care of the run game to make the quarterback still one-dimensional, but still force it where, hey, they're making us do one or the other with it. They got to contain it. So that all that in mind, again, short video, short one with it, because I just don't have the time this week to go into each little thing. What do I expect? I think this, I said with with Nebraska and Tulane, those were going to be blowout games. I was completely wrong. With Western Carolina, it's an FCS team. Of course, that was going to be a blowout game. They're a bad FCS team. So what do I expect from this game? I honestly think, and I said this earlier in the season for it, I think OU will take care of business. There's no game that OU should drop on the schedule. However, I do think this is going to be a very close game. I don't think the offensive floodgates are going to open just yet. I think that's going to be next week against Kansas State. This week, they got to take care of that defense against West Virginia. But I do think OU is going to pull a squeaker out, and they're going to win 31-30. I do believe it's going to be a very close game, and it's going to come down to some key turnovers is going to change the flow of that game and the momentum at this point. Again, with it being a night game in Norman, I think the crowd's going to be involved with it and everything like that. But I think that it's going to be a very close game. I don't see this being a 40, 50, 60-point game with it. Again, OU's going to win. Obviously, they're going to win if they're going to score more points. But I do think if they keep West Virginia, the one thing with West Virginia's weakness is they have not scored above 30. If they can keep them below that, I think OU takes care of business, walks out Norman with a W, and heads to their first road game next week against Kansas State. So again, guys, we're going to probably save the couches in Norman. We're not going to have to hear anything about them beating us in Norman ever while we were in the Big 12. Again, I don't think the floodgates are going to open up, but it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be one of those games that everyone's going to be tuned into. So again, guys, comment, rate, subscribe. I want to try to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Again, that's a bold one, but hey, that number is slowly starting to go up, as well as having people view some of my longer videos on it that go 400 or 500 viewers. So I appreciate y'all for joining in for it. Let's go Sooners, Boomer Sooner, and there's only one Oklahoma.